Hi, welcome back. I am happy to be baking with you this week. Today I have promised and had no blueberries, molded blueberries after one day, and now I have blueberries. So I am coming through on my promise. We are making delicious blueberry scones. And I know we have some viewers in Scotland and Australia, and that these are not scones to you. Your scones are like our biscuits, and I don't know what you call these, but for us here, at least in Texas, these are scones. I think everywhere in America. And they are so fast and easy to make. They are delicious, and they just are a nice treat to bring. So if you happen to have a friend call and say, can I come over and need to talk about something, or you need to go to somebody's house and you only have a few minutes, this is wonderful because they're in the family of biscuits and pie crust, but they're like the less fussy sister of biscuits and pie crust that you don't need to do so much or worry so much about them. They come together great, and you can put anything you want in them. There's lemon scones, you could throw some almonds or walnuts or something in with the blueberries, or the possibilities are endless. In our case, I'm making a ridiculous amount of scones because our kids just told us about their Bible youth group bake sale for our church for kids going to camp this summer and to raise money for that. And apparently we're supposed to have a lot of baked goods for that. So I have been baking chocolate chip cookies and peanut butter chip cookies and the white chocolate chip macadamia nut cookies that we baked together. I'll try and remember to link that somewhere. And boy, those are good. And so there's cookie people, and now I'm making scones for different kinds of people who maybe want something a little fancier. I think that there is just a huge variety. We're doing blueberry, but this is your basic scone recipe. So feel free to use this and in place of blueberries, or add 2 blueberries, anything you want, and they're really going to come out quite nicely. So as I promised, let's just get into it. We're starting today with 3 cups of soft white wheat. And again, any of our fresh milled flour is pretty much going to do a good job here. I like to do soft white wheat. So before you set anything up, mill about 2 heaping cups of soft white wheat berries, because we're also going to need some for sprinkling the counter at the end. And occasionally, like today's really rainy, it's thunderstorming, you might hear some thunder. The lights may go out again, but we roll with it. We may need a little bit more. You'll see how it comes together and see what it should look like. This is so easy. You don't have to worry about exacting anything. It really just wants to work, and it's going to work for you. So 3 cups of soft white wheat, or whatever flour of your choice. And to that, we're going to add 1/3 cup of sweetener of your choice. I'm going to use honey granules, but you can use whatever kind of sweetener you like to use. I wouldn't use a liquid sweetener because it really will affect the consistency. And you might end up with a runny mess where you have to end up adding more flour, and then it's too dry, and I just moved stuff over so I know I've used it and I don't worry about it. All right, and then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I say powder because when I was making cookies, almost put baking powder in when I needed baking soda, so try not to do that. I've been doing a ridiculous amount of baking, and I'm a little bit baked out. I don't think I'll be doing any baking tomorrow. Okay, 2 teaspoons baking powder. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and again, we like to use the Redmond's real salt, not the white salt that's been bleached within an inch of its life and all the good stuff taken out. This has got all those minerals and nutrients in there. So about 1/2 teaspoon. And we want to whisk this together, because with this, it's easy in that you don't want to over mix it. So you want to touch this as little as possible. So let's get all this mixed in so we're not worried about blending this towards the end. These are just such a good treat to bring to a Bible study, or like church bake sale or something. It's something different other than cookies and cupcakes. And again, you can make such a variety of them. you're sure to please everybody that way, or most people, I guess. So we're going to set this aside for a second. We're going to mix in 1 egg. And 3/4 cup of cream, a heavy whipping cream, we're just trying to get everything ready to go so that when we combine it all, we can do it really fast, because you want these to stay nice and cold. So I don't even preheat my oven. I make these, put them together, get them in shape, and then I put them in the refrigerator, and then I preheat my oven, just so I know they're going in really cold. So here's my whisk. We're going to whisk the egg and the milk, or the heavy whipping cream, together. And I kept the sticker, or the wrapping, on so I could say we need 1 stick of butter, which is 4 ounces or 113 grams, for those who don't have sticks. I like to use unsalted so that I know exactly what kind of salt and how much salt is going into what we're baking. We're gonna, just like the biscuits and pie crust, we're gonna kind of chop it into small pieces, put it in here, and work the butter into the flour mixture until it kind of looks sandy in here. We don't need to have huge chunks of butter, but you know, some chunks are perfect in there. Okay, so I'm cutting it up, and as I get a few chunks, I'm going to throw them in, and then we're going to just kind of fluff it so that the pieces of butter get coated in the flour. I don't know if I fully said it. When you start all of this, when you get all your ingredients out, get out your flour first and start milling it, so that the flour has time to cool off. You can even put it in your freezer or your refrigerator. Then after it's milled and in the fridge getting cool, you can get all your other things out that you need to get, because we really just want everything cool. And you know, if you mill your own flour, it heats up when it comes out of there. So we don't want anything warm to touch it. So it doesn't take any extra time. Just do this first, put it in the fridge, and get everything else ready. And it has that time to cool off. I kind of throw it in the freezer. So I'm going to throw in a few. Make sure they're separated. Just get them coated. Okay, so we're going to start, after all these are coated nicely, we're just going to take a few, a couple of chunks and squeeze it and work it into the flour. So we're just squeezing. We're not trying to make a paste. We're not trying to make the butter melt. We want that to stay cold, but we want to incorporate the flour into the butter, because that's going to give it a flaky texture and a lot of flavor mixed in. If the ingredients are too hot, or the butter is kind of soft and melty, and you stick it right in the oven, these scones are just going to turn into a flat, soggy mess. They're not going to bake the way you want them. They'll still probably taste good, but it's just not going to look the way you want. So I think we'll do a close-up here so you can see what it should look like. So I'm just squishing and mixing in flour just squish and kind of incorporate it into the flour. So just keep finding chunks, seek out the chunks of butter and mix it right into the flour. And you'll start to see some of the flours already looking sandy, which is what you want to see in the end. So I'm just kind of squishing and mixing. If you feel your hands are very hot or it's a hot day, feel free to take the time to just stop what you're doing, put it in the freezer for a few minutes, and then start again. So we see how it's looking more sandy. I'm just trying to toss it around and look for bigger chunks. I think we're looking pretty good here. There are a few, it will get mixed in a little, and a few flakier layers because of the bigger chunks of butter are going to be just fine. So that looks good, nice and sandy. So we're going to try and get as much off your hands as possible. Okay. So we have our 3/4 cup heavy whipping cream and 1 egg whisked together. And we're just going to add that in there with as little mixing as possible. You can use your hand, but it gets really messy. So I just use a spatula. And we're just kind of turning it in till it turns into somewhat of a dough. I'm not trying to push in, just keep mixing till the moisture naturally is absorbed by the flour, and get the bottom, because loose flour always hides at the bottom. Okay, once it starts to look like this, we're going to turn it out. I just do it right on my counter. If you prefer to use a workstation other than your counter, great. This is where we need a little bit of extra flour because it's going to stick to the counter. Also, here it is, a scraper of some kind to scrape it off the counter. Do you know what I forgot to do, which is just absolutely great? Now is when we add the blueberries in, so we can work them very gently. I forgot to add the zest of a lemon, so I'm just going to do that right now. I have my microplane, and we don't want to get deeper than this. We just want the zesty bit. With your clean lemon, if you just run it down and turn at the same time with pressure, then tap it out, then you don't have a big gook mess on the inside of all the lemon zest stuck together. Whew. My hands are buttery. Makes everything slippery. Literal butterfingers. The lemon zest really helps brighten that flavor of the blueberries and brings out the dough flavors also. All right. As it's been warming up, I've been making a lot of lemonade, so I'll just use that lemon in the lemonade. Okay, so now let's just add 1 cup of blueberries. If you want to chop them, that's fine. It gets really messy in color, so I keep them whole. They bake nicely whole. Boy, we're going to do everything we can to just mix these in without squishing them open. And I'm going to try and work that lemon zest in. Something tells me I'm going to have a very lemony bite in here, but that's okay. So ideally, you would have added the zest in the bowl. So now I'm working it a little bit more than you should because I'm trying to incorporate the lemon zest. But okay, so this is a bit sticky. So I'm going to just fluff some flour here. Okay. There are many ways that you can roll this out. If you like bigger scones, if maybe it's just you and somebody else and you'd like to have bigger scones, you can just put this into a circle, maybe about 8 inches across, something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Scones are kind of beautiful because they're not perfect. I know they have scone baking trays, but those just aren't as good to me as handmade ones. Okay, and if you want to do it this way, just kind of cut out as many as you think looks good, and then you would cut them, pull them apart, and put them on a baking tray. I'm going to do it a little different. I want smaller ones because this is for a bake sale. So I'm just going to go in a rectangle. But you can have scones any shape you want. You can even use cookie cutters. Might be a little tricky with the blueberries. You might occasionally try and scrape underneath and just put some flour so that when you cut these, they'll come off easier. It's hard after you've cut them and you're trying to pull them off to put on the tray and they lose their shape. It's kind of disheartening. So if you can kind of move it, then you're good. I have an approximate rectangle. How thick do you think that is, honey?
5/8.
5/8 of an inch. This is, it's about what it is. Again, you can have much thicker ones. You can have more minimal ones. If you want flatter ones, squish it out further. This is pretty much your average scone size. So we have put in enough flour. It's not sticky to the touch. If we cut into it, it would be. So I just make a line right down the middle. And here you're going to cut some blueberries. If you want to just cut right in half, and do like that, you can have very large scones. I'm making smaller ones because it's for a bake sale. So I try to just eyeball half and not pop as many blueberries as I can. So then I just make a triangle here. They're not all perfect, but again, they don't have to be. There, I got blueberries. So all right. So now I'm using a USA pan, so I'm not going to line this or grease this. So whatever pan you're going to use this, if it's not coated with silicone, then grease it or line it with parchment paper, whatever you like to use. We want to place them where they're not touching each other so they can get a nice crisp browning all the way around. I love that you can make them as large as you want, as small as you want, different shapes. They're just so easy. And the last thing, I don't always do this, clean up. the best way to clean up dough. Just use your scraper. My kids like, it's just a sugar that's on top, and again, it's not a healthy sugar, but it is what it is. It bakes nice and keeps its crystalline look. Okay, we have everything put together. We didn't mush it around too much. I mushed it around a little bit more. I mixed it in because of the zest, but without the zest failure. You should add the zest in right to the flour mixture before you add your liquids in, and then it'll mix in really well. Sorry about that, but this is real life baking here, so I won't edit it out. I have smaller scones. They're about the height, you know, most normal ones are. The bigger they are, the taller they are, they're going to need to bake a little bit longer. That's totally fine. Just be aware, the smaller they are, less time in the oven. Bigger they are, they're going to bake longer. We are going to put these right in the fridge and let them cool while the oven preheats. So we're going to preheat to 400 degrees. So get these cold so that they stay real tall while they bake, and preheat your oven to 400. Okay, so these baked at 400 for about 22 minutes. I think I could have gone another minute just to brown it a little bit more. We are having big thunderstorms, and I just don't want the power to go off while it's in the oven, so I think these are good. One thing I wanted to say, this is my quick and easy recipe. If you wanted to spend a little more time on it, you could take some heavy cream before you put them in the refrigerator. Take heavy cream and use a pastry brush and just put on some heavy cream right on top, and that'll make those little sugar crystals stick a little better, but that's just extra. It also helps with the browning, but these are quick. I have been baking all day long. I am looking for quick and easy. These taste great no matter what. So here are our delightful scones. They're so delicious, and they are a crowd pleaser, and you can do so many things with them. I have a lemon scone recipe that has a lemon glaze over top, which is really just some heavy cream, some powdered sugar, and a little bit of lemon juice in there until it's a thin consistency, and just drizzle it right over the top. That actually tastes really nice on these. I wanted to say my mom and dad are visiting right now, and we have these lovely flowers my dad gave my mom because they were able to celebrate their 51st wedding anniversary here. So I want to give a shout out to my mom and dad for happy 51st wedding anniversary. Although, yeah, there it is. They're right around there. So I think that's something wonderful to celebrate. But thank you for baking with me. I hope this recipe you try and see how yummy it is and how quick and easy it is. And people think a lot of work went into it and that it's very fancy, but they're very simple to make, and in a rush you can really get them out and take them to somebody who needs them, or while they're in the oven for 20 minutes you can company clean your house, you know, with just the areas that people see while they're over. But thank you for being with me. I am praying for you. I am so excited to read your comments and see people wherever they are all over the world, and thank you for baking with me and spending your time with me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.